this morning with Christal, myself, and Doc in here with us this morning.
Harry, you had said something that the French in the other Congo had left the constitution.
Yes.
Well, there were some 7 countries controlled by the French. Over the last 3 years, 4 of them have had coups. Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just challenging what you said because a study was done recently this year that showed, going to 36 countries, 53% of the people surveyed would prefer some sort of strongman dictator over democracy because they feel that democracy has failed. And there was a nice constitution and so forth and things like that, but the economic benefits, rooting out crime. And so even though there's infringement on human rights from a strong man and a dictator, they prefer a strong man who could go and beat up on the criminals, on the militants who are coming across and raiding villages and borders, on Boko Haram and so forth, coming kidnapping kids. They prefer that to the niceties of democracy where there's elections and so forth, but there isn't any economic benefit. Now you look at Africa, the economic benefits, the exploitation over the years has left the state where, even though there's great potential, the Chinese are coming in and getting all the materials.
And I think that's very important to note that the Chinese are actually the main company in the mining in DRC.
Well, yes, you're
That's
right.
That's not surprising.
You're right. Matter of fact, in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And the Wagner Group out of Russia has been infiltrated. So Africa has some major problems. And I pray that our mother country basically finds its way. But unfortunately, it's going to be individual countries, because it isn't Africa, isn't a country. Africa is a continent.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, Africa is a continent. I mean, I'm fascinated. China, 1.5 billion people. India, 1.4, and Africa, 1.3 billion. So it's fascinating in that regard.
I had when I was in uni, I read a paper. I can't remember who the author of the paper was, and he had said, if it is that Africans had mounted on rhinos and lions and giraffes and they're eating rhino meat and the wild meat in Africa, and the tribes united and descended upon Europe, we would have a different history, we would have a different present.
Or is it not? Divide and conquer.
I wouldn't mind living in a country where there's a white woman on the news say, oh my God, they killed my German. Stop these white crimes. I wouldn't mind that. It's so crazy to say out loud, but I wouldn't mind if that was a different history. And they said that the main reason why the Europeans were able to divide and conquer Africa was the terrain and the lack of communication between the tribes.
Africa.
And as you mentioned, Rwanda, the way they divide the tribes. Mm-hmm. Tutsis are over in Democratic Republic of Congo, they're over in Rwanda. And so, when they divided up Africa, there was no regard for tribal, religious, and other form of background, and it's sad.
It is very unfortunate.
When you talk about these things and listen to them, it's always somebody against Africa.
I won't say that because a lot of the times it's Africans against Africans.
I think,
and isn't that the same? Somebody always against Africa.
But you see, I think it was at a time Africa was very powerful. Mm-hmm. They had strong armies, but they had bows and arrows. They had metal spears, but it was a time of gunpowder. Mm-hmm. And they were able to use repeat in South Africa, the repeating rifles. And when the Zulus came, hundreds of thousands of Zulus, they just mowed them down, right?
Maybe I have a different, or maybe I'm thinking of a different time period because I remember the rise of Shaka Zulu. He took over most of South Africa, and what they did was they approached him as a friend, and they manipulated the friendship until they could slowly come in and start to take down the Zulus. I think the Zulus might have been the most formable. Hey, but you get what I say. I
But this
think the
went
Zulus
on
caused them
all
a lot
over the
of problems.
world. It went on in North American Indians. It went
Mhm.
on in South America,
Mhm.
with the Aztecs and the thing. You befriend one
Indians.
group in. You befriend one group in. You
Mhm.
tell them, we love you. Those guys over there who are your historical enemies, we will keep them under control for you.
Mhm.
Help us to get rid of them.
Yep.
And one by one, they were able to do that also in Africa. They
Yep.
befriended certain kings and rulers in tribal villages who were in control of a particular area, and they hipscotch and say, they also solicited them in getting some slaves for them too.
Yes,
You
in
know?
in West South Africa,
Yeah.
in West Africa. I don't think
West
South
Africa.
Africa did trade, did slave trade.
Yes. I don't. They didn't reach. I don't think they reached out, but in West Africa, but they also went in the Congo. You believe it or not, around this time of the Congo emerging, this is when slaves were going mainly to Brazil.
Hmm.
Brazil slavery wasn't abolished until way late in the 1800s. So, it's a sad story. And people would ask, well, why are we bringing that up today? Why are we talking about it?
current
We ain't
issue.
talking about other things. Well, we can move on to other things.
Calls coming through. Let's take it quickly. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, I just called back to finish off on where I was cut. I don't so, and Ari are aware that the scholarship, we hear about Rhodes Scholars. Are you aware? Are you aware of that? The Rhodes Scholar, Duke Brown was a Rhodes Scholar. You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
All right. Do you know who was how this came about? From one of these white Englishmen, the same white Englishman, wicked man, who
From the South
and
Africa.
from his name,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's from his name he got Rhodesia. And he went to the continent. When I speak about these things, I get passionate, I wish I had the
Understandably
power
so.
to really change things.
Mhm.
He went there and exploited the wealth of Africa in that part of Africa. And so he was able to make a fortune out of all the natural minerals, diamond especially. And so he was in a position to offer he set up his own empire. And that's how this whole scholarship thing was born out of that part. Rhodes Scholarship and so on. So it's the blood, it's the sweat and oil. It's the genocide that was carried out against black people that this guy. The wall is a wicked wall, The wall is really a wicked wall. I don't care what nobody wants to say. I mean, it's how human exploit human, man exploit man for all the riches that the earth has to offer. So I just want to clear that up. Thank you.
Thanks. You know what I think as well in response to what you said, Doc, about persons preferring the dictatorship type governance. I feel like we would see that in countries that have these problems. So in St. Vincent and the wider Caribbean, you won't hear us saying, "Give us a dictator." We don't do that.
Don't make me
But
laugh.
you'll hear
Don't
that.
make me laugh.
You would definitely hear it in the Middle East and in Africa.
Is it that they really want that dictator like leadership, or
Yeah,
they
but-
want a firm democracy or just democratic rule?
Well, you see, that's the whole point. Democratic rule, prime minister or president who basically goes through the process of getting how we get laws passed, as opposed to being a strong man and say, this is what is going to take place, and so on, so on, so on.
Yeah, remember, I'm this
Any
ready
which
to
way you
deal.
put it, you're
Here
gonna
was
be.
it. Here was it. The economic situation, the unemployment rate. We talk about unemployment in the Caribbean, man. In some parts of Africa, the youth, unemployment among youth is rife. And security. I'm bringing up the issue of security. If you are in a country that may be Christian and you're seeing the incursion of Islamist, you want security. And the term coup d'etat means stroke of state. You know, it's French for stroke of state, Harry. You know,
Mhm.
stroke of state.
Hold a
is the
second
term of
there.
coup d'etat. Yeah.
Let's say this wrong. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, you're live.
Yeah, this discussion about Africa, is this in light of the PM trip to Nigeria
No.
that you guys are discussing this?
No,
Not
this
at
is
all.
international news. What's happening currently in the Congo? We tend to speak about what's happening in Hamas, Israel, and we spoke about what happened in Ukraine. But this is the mother country, and we're not speaking about it. We need to speak about the current issues that affect us as Black people, or descendants of Africans.
So does the question of making the Nigerians citizens, does this enter in your discussion, a part of the discussion?
But you want to comment? If you want to comment on it, you may comment on it, because we were speaking about it earlier.
So, Dr. Thompson, how you
No,
think that's a good idea?
I would have loved your views on this.
Yeah,
You
welcome it.
tell me your views, Queens. Tell me your views. I want to hear it. Tell us. And don't back down on this one.
Because when Mr. Eustace proposed that we make the Garifuna citizen, the PM was against it, and now he want to make Nigerian citizens. I have no problem with that, but I find that hypocritical
That's an
that
interesting.
you didn't want the Garifuna people to be citizens, but you want the Nigerian to be citizens. What you say, Thompson?
Well, I haven't actually heard at the context. The Prime Minister say that? What did he actually say?
We could touch on that after,
Yeah.
like at 9:20.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Give it
That'd be
some time.
interesting. Yeah,
Right.
I would like to get that information, the accurate wording, and so what was said, because you know,
Yeah.
things are said. And
Yeah, you say they're coming to take our land. What are they going to bring them over here to take our land and our
no,
jobs?
I'm talking about the Nigerian
So,
thing you're talking
2015,
about. I'm talking about the Nigerian.
But, yeah, but I'm saying what?
I am Garifuna.
When the Garifino,
I am Garifuna.
when Eustace,
Queen,
right,
Queens.
but when Eustace,
Queens. I am Garifuna. I got Garifuna blood running in my veins. You understand?
so you were against the.
I've been to Belize several
you think about
times.
What about the
I love
comments
Garifuna.
that we shouldn't be Garifuna?
You see,
What about that? What comment? What's your comment on that?
I'll tell you something. The other issues, right now, we do not have external ship and so forth. Also means being part of the democracy